Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Foundation for Free Enterprise Education Speaker Series. Today, we're very excited to have a person with us who's going to talk all about the trades, specifically electrical contracting. Her name is Marissa Bankert, and she is the Executive Director of the Central Pennsylvania chapter of Independent Electrical Contractors, or IEC, which is an association for electricians serving 20 counties in Pennsylvania. She did not go to college for association management and instead received a degree in political science with the thought of entering law school. Instead, she began her career as a stay-at-home mom to her daughter, who will actually graduate this year. As executive director for IEC, Marissa champions apprenticeship, and her chapter has both state-approved apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. In the summer of 2022, they will introduce a new introductory program intended to jumpstart your electrical career. Marissa is also the president of the South Central Pennsylvania chapter of NAWIC, or the National Association of Women in Construction, where the chapter serves to introduce more girls and women to careers in the construction trades. Marissa, it is so great to have you here with us today. Welcome. I cannot wait to dive into this topic. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I love this opportunity to talk about apprenticeship and an electrical career.
Well, we're glad you're here because there's so much to cover here, and we want to really dive into the trades, and specifically the electrical contracting trade and what it's all about, and how young people really it's a fantastic opportunity for them. So let's first start by talking, how did you ever get in this field? I mean, you had aspirations of a law degree and all that kind of stuff. Association management wasn't even on the radar, but tell us how your education and background prepared you for association management.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think ultimately kind of what happened was, as you mentioned, I stayed at home with my daughter for the first 6 years. And then as she entered into her life, then I entered into my career arc more. So if she was going to school part-time, I worked part-time. And so I started with another association when she went to school full-time. And it was funny. It was one of those things where I was like, where was this as a degree option when I was selecting that, because I thought it was really, really interesting to take a group of people who have like-minded interests and then serve them in the best capacity for what their needs are. And I that really spoke to me because I have a big nonprofit heart. So I was already kind of doing that in some of my nonprofit work that I was doing. So, but to answer your question about the education piece, I think that kind of any of those social science degrees prepare you for a role in association management, because again, you're working with people, you're kind of having an understanding about how things work in social settings and, how people function best and those types of things. So in my political science degree, you do a lot of research, right? You do a lot of things about looking at, hey, what has precedent been? What were the things that happened historically that have led us to where we are today? And so I think that ultimately helped to prepare me for a role in association management. And then also in a leadership position. When I was in college, I helped to found an academic fraternity there. So those types of experiences were really, really great for me in understanding what it takes to have leadership profile and be an executive.
That actually makes perfect sense. I appreciate you giving that background, because so many people today, especially as they enter into college or as they're getting prepared to leave college or even high school, they don't know how it all ties in and fits together. So that was great. So let's talk a little bit about apprenticeships. For those viewers who don't know much, including me, can you define what exactly an apprenticeship is?
Sure. So an apprenticeship, when I started this position, I thought of it kind of in that medieval sense, right? We've all seen that where like the iron is out there being hammered down, they're working on things like that. And that's true. That is an apprenticeship. And so an apprenticeship is basically where there's an expert in a field that you are learning from in order to gain expertise. That's the essence of apprenticeship. In modern apprenticeships, the beauty of that is that you are working full-time in your career path, and then you're earning full-time wages, and then you're also learning related technical instruction as it pertains to that. So it's a combination of both on-the-job training and related technical instruction as it pertains to your dedicated career options and skilled trades and lots of different opportunities throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
That's fantastic. I mean, this whole notion of getting paid while you're learning very appealing. So walk our high school students that are viewing this through the whole apprenticeship process with IEC. How do they apply? What are the requirements, as far as academics or physical requirements? What is the cost to them? How long does it take? Just basically the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So a couple of different things. We have our pre-apprenticeship program, which you mentioned earlier, which we provide to seniors in high schools throughout the Commonwealth. And they can use that. That's actually our first year curriculum delivered in an online format. So the benefit of that is that they kind of get that knowledge base of that first year in their senior year in high school. And then they can use that when they apply for our apprenticeship program. All applicants, no matter if they've been in our pre-apprenticeship or they're just interested in an electrical career, have to go through what we call our open enrollment process. And so during that process, you're going to provide us with documentation about who you are. You're going to complete an application. You're going to provide us a $100 application fee, letters of reference, your high school transcripts, all of that kind of good stuff so that we can get a sense of who you are. And you're going to go through a qualification process. So step number 1 is getting all that paperwork in. Step number 2 is that you do have to take assessments. You have to take a math assessment and a reading assessment, which we do online. And so that's to help with some of the background so that the contractors that potentially would be hiring you understand what your skill level is on those math and reading assessments. And just to answer your question about qualifications, you do have to have a high school diploma or a GED equivalent in order to become a registered apprentice with us. But I think it's also important to note that we recommend that you have at least Algebra 2 and geometry as a background for math. And then our curriculum is written at a 9th and 10th grade reading level. So it's really important that you're exceeding that in order to be proficient in understanding the curriculum. So you've done the application, you've submitted all of the paperwork and done the assessments. The final thing is, if you're not already affiliated with one of our contractor members through a co-op or through an agreed upon working arrangement, you'll be interviewed by a panel of our contractor members. So in essence, this is the most points as a part of our application process. And it's your opportunity to sell yourself on why they should be paying for you to, go through the apprenticeship program. And so this is one of those opportunities that's kind of can be a challenge for younger people because it's done through committee. So I know that that's how they interviewed me for my job. And I was like, oh, I walked into this room. There were 10 people sitting there. I was like, oh, surprise, this is what's happening today. And so the same thing is true when we interview our apprentices. There are generally about 10 to 15 people in the room. And we go around in a round robin format, and they're asking questions from, everything that has to do with the physicality of the role, to work ethic, to leadership skills, to what supervisors they may have had in the past, what activities they enjoy, any of those kinds of things. So that's the big process in kind of getting to the program. So now let's say that you've qualified for the program. Once you've qualified for the program, you're offered full-time work with one of our IEC contractor members. And then you're going to start earning that money right away as a part of that full-time work. And then as soon as classes start, you'll be started in our apprenticeship classes that last for 4 years. And so you're getting at least 156 hours of related technical instruction per year, and you're working at least 2,000 hours of on-the-job training per year. So in order to finish our program, you have to have 576 hours of related technical instruction at least, and you have to have at least 8,000 hours of on-the-job training. That's a lot, but it really prepares someone to be a professional electrician.
It's a lot, but yeah, I mean, you're working full time and getting paid for that. So this is on top of the work, but it sounds like it's a total immersion in that. So
that's
it's kind
exactly
of like,
right.
Perfect segue. Go ahead.
That's okay. I was just going to say, and remember that it's free, right? So that's the other wonderful thing when you think about this. So you're working full time, you're making full time money. Depending upon your contractor, you're receiving benefits. You're really setting yourself up for the life that you wish to have as far as your career path is concerned. And then you're not incurring any student debt because our contractor members pay 100% of your tuition as it pertains to your related technical instruction.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. So I want to touch on something you just said, though. Let's say you walk into that room and there's those 10 or 15 people that are, asking you questions. Can you describe like the skills and education and what these employers or your committee is looking for as you're in that room. What should our young people prepare to bring to the table when they enter that room?
That's a great question. So one thing that you shouldn't be focused on is well, I don't know anything about it being an electrician. That's great, because we're going to spend 4 years teaching you how to do that, right? That's the purpose of it. We don't need you to be an electrician when you walk in. I will say that I do think that there is a desire by most of our IEC contractors that you have some experience with hand tools, with kind of working on things. I believe that it takes 3 things to be a great electrician. The first thing is, and I'm going to get some groans, trust me, when they're looking at this, is you have to like doing math every single day, because an electrician does math every single day. That's what they do. It's a STEM program. The second thing is you have to like problem solving. So electrical contracting is probably something different almost every single day. And sometimes there are going to be things that kind of pop up and you're going to have to figure out how to manage them. And then the third thing you have to like to do is working with your hands. So that's that tactile piece of it. So if you are not really a tactile learner, you don't really enjoy that kind of something, not saying you can't be an electrician, but it'll certainly make it more difficult, because that's a hands-on career, just like many of the skilled trades are. So I think that that's a big factor. One of the other things we consistently hear from our contractor members is effective communication. You need to be able to understand how to communicate with your employer, with your team members, potentially with clients and customers. So that's a really important skill that they're looking for. And then another thing that I would say is really important is super strong work ethic. And I know that that's something that can be defined in different ways, but I think specifically for the majority of our contractors, we're talking about a willingness to understand that the job needs to get done in a timely manner. We're talking about getting up early. The construction industry is a work early, get off early kind of an industry. So you got to get up earlier, but then you're done earlier in the afternoon. And that willingness to kind of put forth the effort that it takes to get the job done in the safest and most efficient way.
Absolutely fantastic advice. And that covered pretty much everything that they will need to think about before even considering entering the IEC apprenticeship program. Fantastic. So it's also the perfect segue. So describe what like a typical day as an electrician may look like. In other words, when students graduate from your program, or even enter what can they expect on the job? What does a typical day look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have about almost 60 contractors across the state of Pennsylvania. So they each do kind of different things, but the majority of them do commercial electrical systems installations, right? So when you're thinking about that, you're probably thinking about arriving on the job site sometime between 6 and 7 a.m. in most instances. And so then you're going to be tasked with whatever needs to happen during that day. And that could be at the beginning of a project. You might be digging ditches to run conduit. You might be bending conduit in order to, facilitate whatever the next steps are. Pulling wire. You could be prefabbing things, right? Creating things in the shop that then are going to go to the job site. Those are a lot of those kind of level 1 kind of activities. As you progress through your apprenticeship career, you're going to be responsible for more and more work, right? So more and more installation of things, more and more understanding of what's happening in order to make decisions. We have a lot of instances where by the time they're in their 4th year, they're starting to get to that, hey, we're going to be running work, kind of a thing, understanding what the process is so that they can facilitate what's happening on the job, because that following year, they'll be a graduated journey person and be able to supervise other apprentices. So that's kind of what you see as the arc of doing those types of things. Again, early in, but then you're done by like 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you really do have your evening there. Lots of lunches on the job site. You're not going to, long lunches or, taking a ton of meetings. You will see job site meetings that encompass not just your trade, but other trades, safety meetings that happen as a part of your employer. And understanding kind of the general atmosphere that goes along with being on a construction site.
Wow, that great description. I mean, that's exactly what we were looking for. So this is a tough question in some cases, but it's what everybody wants to know. What kind of money can new graduates expect to earn early on, not only as they're going through the apprenticeship program, but let's say after they graduate? What's like the, starting, midline, and high-end salary range for this type of career?
Sure. So, I mean, overall, the median income in the state of Pennsylvania for a journey person is about $62,000 per year. So that's, again, you don't have any student debt associated with that. When you're just starting out, you're probably looking at, that I'll say $13 to $15 per hour range. And again, they're going to pay for your education and provide you with other benefits. So that's kind of that general starting range for that. Definitely depends on contractor and depends on their scope of work. Some of our more niche contractors, they are doing bigger things, bigger projects. So they might have a higher starting, range versus someone who maybe only does a specific kind of work and is a smaller contractor. They might have a smaller starting range. And then as a part of the registered apprenticeship, you're kind of guaranteed minimums. I used to say it in a different way, but I now say it in this way, which is for every 1,000 hours that you work past that first 1,000 hours, you're guaranteed to be making X percentage of what the journey person makes. So if the average journey person salary for that company is $25 an hour, you're guaranteed after your first 1,000 hours to be making at least 45% of that. And that's really great if you think about it as a way to kind of keep you motivated to know, hey, as long as I'm doing, good work, I'm, following the rules that are part of my contractor's employee manual, and I'm getting good grades, I'm going to be guaranteed to be making these dollars an hour. Our chapter's average journey person wage is probably close to about $27.80, thereabouts. So that's kind of like at the end, that's where our average chapter hourly range is. And again, the average salary in the state of Pennsylvania is about $62,000.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's that range right there is $58,000 a year. That's pretty darn good money for someone, who is recently out of high school with no debt. That's great. That's not bad at all. Sign me up. So yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about, for those people who are really interested right now, but like maybe are a little bit concerned about, only doing one thing for like a long time. You mentioned in our initial conversation that there are so many different kinds of jobs that are available in this entire industry. Can you describe what kind of jobs this apprenticeship may lead to, and what kind of careers in the electrical services industry, that they could probably get into after, as they progress through this? What other kinds of careers are available to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me start off by saying that as a part of our apprenticeship and our organization, our national organization, that apprentices can earn up to 41 college credits, depending upon the institution that they might be interested in entering into. And I say that because that's a great kind of a way to think about, hey, I do like this as a foundational principle, but I'm also maybe still interested in becoming an electrical engineer, let's say, right? So if you're interested in a career path like that, trust me, firms will love the fact that you have this on-the-job experience, so you actually understand what's happening. You've had someone else, one of our contractors, pay for up to 41 college credits that go towards your degree, and then you're going to spend that additional time kind of honing in those skills at an additional post-secondary educational provider. So an electrical engineer is one of those careers that you absolutely could do as an addition to your apprenticeship. Directly from the apprenticeship, what we see a lot are those supervisory roles, right? Supervisor, foreman, project manager. Those are coming pretty quickly for a lot of our graduates because this is a continuously growing industry. So we want to keep bringing new people on. And that's an opportunity to move those people who have recently experienced the apprenticeship, understand what it means to work in the field, and now can lead others into those project spheres. The other thing that we see a lot are estimators. So if you just love math, you just can't get enough of math and you want to do it all the time, trust me, there's a role for you, and it's called being an estimator. So that's someone that's, going to look at jobs, determine costs, help to do with bids and things like that for a lot of the jobs that they have in the construction industry. So that's a really great opportunity for someone. The other thing that I think a lot of people are interested in, and we see more and more of, is own your own business. You have that as a foundation. This is your opportunity to become an entrepreneur. So the majority of our members were electricians first, and now are business owners. That was their pathway, right? So they spent years in the field understanding leadership, understanding the craft, understanding the trade, understanding the construction industry as a whole, but then they were able to start their businesses and they are now entrepreneurs. They own their own businesses surrounding that. And then one of the other ones that I think is kind of fun is to think about sales, right? So sometimes we don't think about this as being something that we want to go into. But if you have that foundation in the apprenticeship program and you understand how things work on a job site, you are inherently more effective at selling that to the people who are going to be working on the job site. And we have a couple of great examples within our association that did those other roles. They were apprentices, they were journey persons, they were estimators, so they were already working on that side. And now they're making six figures in sales because they understand how to sell to the construction industry based off of their previous experience.
Well, without knowing it, Marissa, you just gave the perfect plug for a young person to attend Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week, because they get all that information, the business end of the information before they actually get into the trade. So it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. So fantastic. So I think we mentioned earlier that your chapter, the Central Pennsylvania chapter, covers 20 Pennsylvania counties. We don't have to list them all right here. They can get a hold of you later on. But what if students do some research and they say, yeah, I'm really into this, not offered my county? How do they get involved?
Yep. So a couple of things. Right now, we have a couple of other chapters throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So we have a chapter in Northwest PA. We also have a chapter that covers counties out towards the Philadelphia area. But let's say you're not covered in any of those areas. You can still reach out to us because we actually have contractors that fall outside of our given territory. So if that's something that you're interested in, please reach out. We'll make every effort to kind of get you connected with someone to begin your electrical career. And the beauty about our program is, while we do offer in-person classes at 2 facilities in central Pennsylvania, one in York and one in Mechanicsburg, we also have an e-apprenticeship program. So the apprenticeship program and the related technical instruction can be delivered in an online format throughout the state of Pennsylvania.
That's fantastic. So what you just said is there's absolutely no excuse for someone not to, reach out and figure this stuff out. That's fantastic.
That's right.
So we have covered a lot of ground here, Marissa, but what final thoughts? How do we wrap this all up? What would you like to leave our viewers with, about not only IEC, but about maybe their future and how to prepare for a great career in the electrical industry?
Yeah, so I think just think about it as a real viable career. And one thing that's different and unique about our post-secondary educational opportunity as an apprenticeship versus a traditional college path is that you are in your career from day one. You enter into the apprenticeship and you're in your career. You're starting it. You're going to graduate as a professional electrician, right? I know I went to college and I went in and I was like, well, I think I'm going to be a lawyer. That didn't turn out that way, right? And that's because the traditional college path, there's nothing wrong with it, is this. Hey, let's take a bunch of classes and see where we end up as far as what the job market has available for us when we finish. Totally understand, great and viable. But in a traditional apprenticeship program, you are entered into your career. You're going to be an electrician by the time you end. And then from the time that you graduate as a professional electrician, it's up to you to make a determination about how else you might blossom your career within the electrical industry. So I think that that's a really important point. I think for women and girls, as the president of NAWIC here in South Central PA, that we don't often think about a construction career as something that we might want to, be involved in. But the truth is that there's so much technology now that some of those physical barriers that you might have thought about in the past do not really exist. The second thing is that we are constantly making strides to, for equity within the workplace, and that the construction industry on average is the highest linkage in pay gap in any industry. It's 96 cents to the dollar for the average woman versus 77 cents to the dollar in other industries. So when you think about that, women are already making strides as far as the pay gap are concerned within the construction industry. And again, I say this a lot of times when I'm talking to young women and girls, it's like, it is a true opportunity for you to be a boss. I mean, someone else is paying for your education. You like something, you attend, PFEW's educational opportunities, and then you can own your own business. That's not every business and industry that you can say that you can have that career arc in a very effective way. So I think that that's something for people to consider. And then the other thing is just that, the truth is that the construction industry has done a very poor job of trying to sell young people on why they should be involved in the construction industry. But I'm about to tell you why. So the reason that you should be interested in this is because the construction industry literally shapes the landscape of our lives. And when you become an electrician, you are the source of light for your entire community.
Well said. You actually ought to be like an association leader or something. I mean,
I know, it's weird, right?
Yeah. Marissa, that is absolutely perfect, absolutely spot on advice. And I think this is going to be one that people will need to go back to more than once because there was so much richness jammed into our conversation. Listen, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. A great conversation, very timely, very topical. I hope that people take a chance to reach out to you. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to reach out to Marissa for a little bit more information, a deeper dive into the topic, not only on electrical careers, but also on apprenticeships or anything that we've discussed here today, her information will appear at the end of this video. But ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed this. Marissa, once again, thank you so much. You are absolutely terrific and quite a passionate advocate for this, and fantastic job. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks again.